load up the friggin' store. I love you, Bethesda. But I can't wait until we get to see other people. Okay. Now we get to play loading screen simulator, because to be honest, like it's gonna be worth it when it loads up. But this is pure illustration of what kind of load times you should expect if you want to apply my Ashid mountain changes across the horizon. It can be done, but at what cost? This is me like illustrating that to whatever end may come. I know that the load time is going to be very, very long when we actually enter into Tamriel. I know from testing that I will not be able to use one of the portals from Lorcan into Tamriel if it does not enter into the walls of a city. So we are going to keep using Solitude as our spring point. Because for whatever reason, it just works. I should probably prepare something to talk about. Oh wait, I actually think I have something. Because this is literally going to be so long that we might forget that we were waiting on a game. We might actually make it through this entire soundtrack song. Not even joking. Like, it's gonna be a minute, but if you hang in there with me, you're a legend. So we are not talking about objective, factual properties of a commodity. We are talking only here about that elusive surplus. Kinder Surprise Egg. A quite astonishing commodity. The surprise of the Kinder Surprise Egg is that this excessive object, the cause of your desire, is here materialized in the guise of an object, a plastic toy, which fills in the inner void of the chocolate egg. The whole delicate balance is between these two dimensions. What you bought, the chocolate egg, and the surplus, probably made in some Chinese gulag or whatever, the surplus that you get for free. I don't think that the chocolate frame is here just to send you on a deeper voyage toward the inner treasure, what Plato calls the algalma, which makes you a worthy person, which makes a commodity the desirable commodity. I think it's the other way around. We should aim at the higher goal, the goal in the middle of an object, precisely in order to be able to enjoy the surface. This is what is the anti-metaphysical lesson, which is difficult to accept. A man once said to me, "I'm giving you a choice. Either put on the glasses or start eating that trash can." I am already eating from the trash can all the time. The name of this trash can is ideology. The material force of ideology makes me not see what I am effectively eating. It's not only our reality which enslaves us. The tragedy of our predicament when we are within ideology is that when we think that we escape into our dreams, at that point we are within ideology. They Live from 1988 is definitely one of the forgotten masterpieces of the Hollywood left. It tells the story of John Nada. Nada, of course, in Spanish means nothing, a pure subject deprived of all substantial content. A homeless worker in LA who, drifting around, one day enters into an abandoned church where he finds a strange box full of sunglasses. Thank God. Not that I don't love The Pervert's Guide to Ideology, but I can't keep reading excerpts like that, like, forever. Okay, so you can kind of see it. You can kind of see it. Oh, you can kind of tell. But now is not the... This is not the place to try to judge that from. So I downloaded Biolumin to illustrate a visual point.
Position.
You should tell her that her uncle is scum that betrayed his highness. Best she know now.
Oh, I can't watch. I've seen it too many times. The timeline is on repeat, sadly. It is destined to be fulfilled as it always has been. Well, depending on how long this load time is. When John Nada puts one of the sunglasses on, walking along the LA streets, he discovers something weird. That these glasses function like a critique of ideology glasses. They allow you to see the real message beneath all the propaganda, publicity, glitz, posters, and so on. You see a large publicity billboard telling you have your holiday of a lifetime, and then you put the glasses on and you just see on the white background a grey inscription, marry and reproduce. Okay, so already I can kind of feel the frame rate down, and I can definitely tell that when I scroll across the screen. Knowing that load times might be an issue. Oh, I hear frame rate drop. Like I can hear it. I can hear the crackling of the audio files as they're failing to play at their proper speed. Yeah, I am losing frames. That's what I get for being in solitude. Okay. Get me the heck out of here.
Climb and back and we'll be off. Ready to go yet?
If we're very lucky, this won't crash. On the plus side, I think when you load in that much of the persistent world space, it'll still be like wherever I'm headed to, that persistent world space will still be there. Those mountains do not change back into LOD. And as a result, the load times are atrocious. But somehow we made it. Boy, am I happy. Oh wow. The lag is very real. Okay, so as you can see, some of these textures off in the distance, off in the rather far distance, have the biolumin attached to them. The purpose of having the biolumin attached to everything right now is to illustrate where the LOD line is and where it is not anymore. Normally directional okay, so Falmer directional shaders are in a category called directional material. All of the snow shaders are like that. They yeah, they all use the snow shader, and after a certain distance, every shader that uses a okay, so the Falmer shader is a mesh that projects a triangle, like that projects a three-dimensional triangle like at an object, and then depending on the parameters it applies that texture to that object. When that object gets a certain distance away from the character controller, the game changes that directional shader from a full texture shader into what's referred to as a single pass shader, which is usually just a single color. Oh god, hang on, baby. We've got to get into Whiterun so that we can get those spells so that we can watch the weather. That's basically going to be the end of this video. Like, I don't know what else this mod is going to be used for other than watching the weather. But we're gonna sit on top of my Dova meadery outside, and we are just going to chill and watch the weather, and that'll be how I end my stream tonight. I got a lot more done than I think I did, but I really wanted to make sure that I demoed this. I just really, really want it to work. This is one of those mods that is so... the changes are so drastic that I'm not sure... like, I'm not sure if it's one of those mods that you can load in without doing a clean save. I'm not sure it's one of those mods that you can disable without having to rebuild your PS4's database. It's tricky. Like... I think I made possibly too sweeping of changes, but whatever. Now's not the time for that. Now's the time to thank the lucky stars that the game hasn't crashed yet. It is really interesting to see how different everything looks depending on like what color palette you're working with. Cause like, I mean, if your saturation isn't high enough, like, a lot of these colors will really run together. Like these rocks, for example, if you don't have high saturation values, or if your weather mod doesn't have a certain color or a certain intensity of tint to it, these rocks might as well actually look a lot like the vanilla ones, but with Obscura, because the saturation levels are so high, like you can actually kind of see all the different colors that make up other things. And those dirt cliff textures that I use to replace the gray rocks have a really just a real magnificent like way of taking color. Like if you project an orange light at those, you get really good results, which is why I paired the interior lighting and the light object color changes from Through the Looking Glass to this mod as well, because like Tarl is very good at making this kind of stuff, and I really wanted to work with directly with someone who was making this stuff, because in all seriousness, if I didn't have Obscura or Through the Looking Glass to work with, I was kind of afraid that I would just end up with like a combination of, I don't know, Mythical Ages as for exterior, and then ELE and Luminosity, or it would be like relighting ELE and Luminosity for interior, and it just, I don't know, like they're great for realism, but I'm still kind of like a World of Warcraft guy from back in 2007. I really enjoy the cartoony colors, and because like honestly, like where I live, when I go outside and I look around at nature, like the color palette of where I live, like the way that the weather looks, like the color is real. It's not like I don't like it when the colors are washed out. Like I live in an area that has very, very green flora. So it seems genuinely more realistic when the colors are much higher. Okay, so here's where you can really start to see it. Normally, you'd look out at these mountains and they would all be gray. Now, they're all on acid. There are a few pieces out there, however, that I must have missed. It's not easy to figure out. It's not easy to figure out where. The first few times that I tried to make this, the creation kit spat it back at me and told me to get a job, and I laughed because that's not happening, and I just redid it. But yeah, the first few times it did not work at all. And then a few times after that, I accidentally made a few. So like the way that the game is sort of broken up is you've got the world space, you've got Tamriel, which is like the overworld. If you put something into the persistent world space of Tamriel, like in just the right way, you can put objects on the world map. I haven't figured out how exactly to do that. However, I do have a player home that I really wish I could port, called Alzari, that puts a like a dwarven tower at the top of the throat of the world, and then parks a dwarven airship right next to it. It doesn't move, but like, you know, the clockwork is spinning, and it's got like, you know, it's a player home. Like it's legit. It's really cool looking. But the author that made it basically like made it within like the first, I want to say, like year or so after the original came out, and like a couple weeks after he published the mod, his account was like disabled by the user. So like I don't even know how I could ethically, you know, share it with the people, but I really, really want to. Oh. Okay, we're still here. Good. When you have this much stuff in the persistent world space, you will be able to feel and hear every single time it has to load in new stuff. I'm getting these little like pops in my earbuds. Oh, there's more stuttering. Oh yeah, that looks good. This mod is basically meant for visual benchmark screenshots and video and whatnot, but I can't really say that it would be Yeah, did you see that? It had the, as they get further away in the LOD, it would seem that it drops the, I don't know, like as long as it keeps that texture, I don't care what it does with it. I wish that it would carry over my textures to the next levels of LOD, but without criminy, without being able to access the INI files to change the draw distance settings. There is just no way. It's like I was about to move all the mountains into the persistent world space, and then my girlfriend was like, there is no way. Did I? Yeah, I put my house out here. I've got a little. Oh yeah, there it is. Oh shit, yeah. Excuse my language. This channel is for children. Me grave, I crashed right there. Oh yeah, you can tell. Okay, yeah, you can tell that the frame rate is down. So this is an interesting. This is a time to talk about another thing. So if you look off at because I haven't brought the walls of Whiterun into the persistent world space, even if I had, I have. Okay, so you can see the back of the Skyforge there, just beyond the walls. Its experience, like actually all of the Whiterun LOD is experiencing what's referred to as Z fighting. You can look it up. It's like the image that they use to illustrate Z fighting in the in Criminy. Oh, stay with me. Okay. All right. I don't know if you guys can hear that. on your end, but that's lag. I don't know if it's affecting the stream or what I'm saying, but that is... But it is on the verge of... It is on the verge of no memory. That's interesting. If I pointed at the sky, the lag spikes drop off quite a bit. This is Kind's weather that you're seeing, or excuse me, Kind's weather and the seasons. I'm not actually sure if it gets to the seasons part, because that might be based off of a script. So, I think from what I understand from the author of this weather compilation is that I believe it's like I want to say that it's mythical ages, obsidian, wander, rustic, Aquanomicon, or whatever that one is. It's basically like everything by, like, every weather mod that you've probably ever heard of from Arendelle, and then I don't know if Dolomite is in there. Dolomite and obsidian are quite similar to each other in some ways, like, since they have since Mega is the author for both of them. I'm pretty sure there are parts of Dolomite in Obsidian Weathers. I'm sure the fact that I've got 3 animated scripts running on my character isn't saving any space. The fact that I have 12 texture sets or whatever, like, active on my character. Yeah, so as an illustration, you can basically take take my time and experience on this one as a, I guess you could say, like, this is an example of what not to make your mod do. Oh, but the reward. So long ago, my goal was to just simply increase the draw distance and make the mountains glow in the distance. And if I didn't have the normal dampener, set so crazy, you would be able to see that Falmer stuff all over the mountains. However, this weather mod is really big. So I guess what we can try to do is we will try to take off Kind's weather and run this one more time before I log out, and we'll see how it looks with Obscura instead of every other weather mod ever made. Kind's weather is fun, but not when you've got lag. It's just really nice to know that you could basically get like one of 100 different weathers, like, and none of them are the same in no matter where you are, and it's regional, and it's got possibly seasons depending on how well that is implemented. I don't know if the seasons are a script or not, because I don't know enough about how that mod works, but I know that if they had to create a new script for that mod, then PS4 users wouldn't be able to use it. We can use scripts that have been that have had their parameters modified, but if someone creates a script from scratch using the Papyrus script, or the Papyrus thing, the game, you can't upload it to PS4. Okay, so I'm going to try to quit back to the main screen and sort out the load order one more time. There's a really good chance that it crashes when I quit. If it does, I'll probably call it here and just leave this as a cautionary tale of what happens when you are too tenacious for your own good and mod yourself into an unplayable game / loading screen simulator. Don't let it happen to you. It was an honor, though, to make that mistake for all of you, in case you guys ever get into modding and decide to do something crazy like rebuild a mountain range in the persistent world space. I remember, I think I told another author who had extensive experience with the game that I had originally, I just wanted to put 2600 static objects into the persistent world space, and he laughed at me. And I was like, "Oh, are you saying that's not enough, or that's too many?" Or it was an interesting conversation, but yeah, I think I'm lagging also because I'm streaming. That probably is really cutting into the amount of memory my PlayStation can use. But if any of you are still out there or still watching this or watching this after the fact and this crashes, then I will definitely catch you next time. This has been a lot of fun for me. I don't know. I'd love to talk to people about modding, and I'd just love for people to get into this stuff themselves if they think they'd enjoy it. You never know what you might come up with, or or who else might really enjoy using whatever you create. So it's a very interesting feeling, because like I used to make music, I used to make music for YouTube, and I didn't I don't think I got nearly as I think I've gotten more recognition for making mods than I ever have for making videos on YouTube, which is interesting because I went to school for music and not for this. So yeah, if it crashes, have a good night. If not, round 2. Oh man. How did anybody find the video to comment on it? I sent the link to one person. That's cool. Even though I can't tell if their comments were written by a computer or not. It's just generic enough, and I'm kind of cynical when it comes to computers. Okay. Round 2 of the loading screen simulator. Oh, I see. The channel that commented on my videos is clearly a bot, because the only video that's in their feed is one about how to boost your subscriber count. I was gonna say, isn't that fun? Here I thought I was getting some flash in the pan attention. Psh, nah. Just Big Brother. Or whatever their organization is called today. Okay, so we're going back through Lorcan into Solitude once again to make sure that as we load in stupid amounts of the persistent world space, that we don't do it, how do I say, right in one? I have no idea why I can enter... Why... Okay, so when you go inside a building, that's called that's called a cell. Being outside in nature or wilderness or outside the walls of a city, that's Tamriel world space. When you go inside the walls of a city, that's referred to as, like, if you're inside Whiterun, that's Whiterun world. And that's part of what's, I guess, referred to as Small World, which I believe is the space sort of where the, like, it's the low detailed version of the world map that I believe that is used for the actual map screen. Did you see that for a second? I swear the color was perfect for a sec. I saw such a flash. It's like almost the entire city of Solitude came in at once. I could be seeing stuff, but I don't have any waypoints. And already this is running a little bit better. I don't think it's at a full 60. It's probably more like it. Well, I don't know how much performance cost that things like bloom or blur actually add, but the well, there's bloom and there's eye adapt speed. Those are both part of the both part of the HDR package upgrade, I think, for the Skyrim remake. I don't remember much about the original version of Skyrim. I was not privy to what I know now when I was playing Skyrim on the 360. I never thought that modding would ever be a possibility. Like, well into my, like, for a few years of playing this on PlayStation, I didn't even think about modding. But then after a while of trying mods and stuff. I think I kind of got away from like playing the game, and now it's a lot more fun, I think, to just create. Can you clarify what you mean by that? Oh yeah, sort of. I mean, it's really hard for me to like to I feel like I've gotten so deep into the mods now that like they've become the new game to play. Like it wasn't like, because I've played through the storyline so many times and it's not going to change. I felt compelled to, if I was going to keep playing, I had to basically use mods to write my own narrative if I wanted to if I wanted to keep spending like full-time hours in Tamriel, like nearly 10 years later.
Need a ride? Where do you want to go? Climb and back, and we'll be off.
But I do agree on some level that like
Never been to Whiterun before?
it's not always the case, but like
Dragon search, they call it.
there's always a very small percent chance that modding, that making changes to the game based on your own preferences can like outright ruin almost the entire experience. It's very curious trying to find that balance. It takes a lot of talent to make balanced changes to a game like this, because in my opinion a lot of things are already, they're pretty much in balance, or it's so easy to screw up if you try to, you know, meddle with that stuff yourself. Maybe I just don't have the maybe you have to have a bit more of a dungeon master's mindset to keep it all straight. You know, like the leveled item lists and whatnot, and understand and like really advanced crafting stuff. Yeah, I don't think we ever. I think it was a big surprise at all to find modding on the console version. Like it's quite a it's pretty cool. I wish I really wish it's interesting that Bethesda of all companies would have the most, like, you know, access, even though they're not exactly the ones that I want to have like the keys to everything. I wish that the like the platform for modding games that they used was a little more universal. So like I really want to make mods or something for Outer Worlds, and they it's just a, you know, it's a totally different thing. They certainly haven't had their head in the right place for the last few years, which is why I continue to milk this free cow for all that it's worth. Although I did have a nightmare the other day that Bethesda Net just totally went down and never came back, and I lost all the work that I had spent all this time on, and realized that if that ever happened in real life, there'd be no way of restoring it or somehow like enabling Nexus support on consoles. And it's just like, I don't know. It was kind of a melancholy feeling to know that if they ever screw up real bad, that that a lot of people's like library of hard work could be totally like, you know, blinked out of existence. Yeah, I don't think anybody could say anything about Fallout 76 that hasn't already been said. I think one of the funniest things I've ever seen in relation to Skyrim modding about Fallout 76 was there was a joke mod that popped up on the store that wasn't actually meant to be a real mod, but it was called Skyrim 76. It actually, not to be confused with, there's actually a really good, like a really high quality and very like a lot of hard work went into it version of a mod called Skyrim 76 on the Nexus. But then there was also one that was made as a joke on the PS4 version, and it was called Skyrim 76 because it was just Skyrim, except he removed all of the NPCs from the game and encouraged people not to download it because it would more than likely just not function properly, which I thought was like that's exactly my kind of sense of humor. If you're gonna be like bullheaded about it. I have a lot of I have a lot of love for the Fallout series, like as a as like a collection of stories, and I think the lore is really good. And I wish that I could. I think that if Bethesda wanted to do something with Fallout, that that might actually get people's attention and make people think that, oh wow, they actually. I think they might actually like care, because it would be like in order to meet my demands, they would have to hire on everyone from, like, they would basically have to team up with Obsidian and remake, and because that's where most of the original creators of the Fallout series ended up, and have them remake the entire Fallout series in higher resolution so that I can enjoy, all of the stories and stuff from like Fallout 1 and 2, but from a first person or third person perspective, whichever. Like, it just, I really want to experience those stories, but I don't mean to be really spoiled by like the advancing of technology, but like there are some types of games that I just simply cannot go back and play anymore. I recently realized that like I probably won't, like I couldn't go back and play. I love Final Fantasy VII. It's one of my favorite games of all time, but because I've 100%ed that game 3 times in my life, I don't think I could ever go back and do that again without like really like costing myself like emotionally. Like I wouldn't, the diminishing return on my enjoyment would be so like would be so great that I don't know. Like, it doesn't mean I don't love the Final Fantasy series enough to want to live in that world or get an internship at Shinra, just so I could be able to, like, walk into, meetings and, stuff carrying a big tray of drinks. It's like, who ordered the macchiato with blue chocobo milk and no foam? Like, I wanted that gig as a teenager, but you can't internship there. I don't know. I just don't count, like, if they remade if they remade Fallout 1, 2, 3, let's face it, and 4, and then also offered as an ultra immersive side package, include the ability to play through Fallout 3 and New Vegas together as one game as an officially released A Tale of Two Wastelands. Like, freaking do it. People don't know they want it, but as soon as they find out that they can play as the Lone Wanderer and the Sole Survivor or whatever, like, when they find out that you can create a storyline where that protagonist is the same person, like, the immersion part of your brain will never want to come up for air again. Like, it's so good. But the games are so buggy, even on the best of systems, that it's like, are the crashes constantly worth it? Like, kinda, but I don't know. Like, is it enough to be able to finish a game, like, when you can barely finish a game? Did I not pick up the times? Oh, thank God. Wait, what in the heck am I looking at? I covered basically every static in the game. I can't figure out why these mountain things are not loading in. Okay, now they are. Yeah, I'm currently demoing a fix for the like the mountains and stuff, but something is giving it crap. For myself, I'm a mod. I'm the author of this mod, and I'm doing a this is like a showcase video for, because it's easier to make a video than it is to make a super long description. Sorta. I also am trying to like help educate some of the like less informed users that want to know more about modding in general. A lot of this stuff isn't exactly self-evident. Okay, well, on some level I'm succeeding. You see straight ahead here, this entire like mountain, this gigantic structure of mountains, aside from a few like wandering radicals that somehow have managed to escape my like the gaze of Xedit, I've managed to keep like these retextured mountains completely in full detail, rather than having them revert back to LOD, because I am absolutely allergic to that gray rock texture. Like I can't look at it. It's disgusting. Like, this is supposed to be in full detail. I can't remember what type of, like mesh object that is. It's gonna change back, but it's hard to find them all sometimes. Okay. I think I know what the problem is. It has something to do with the directional shader. If I left the Falmer light on, I have a feeling it would I have a feeling that the mountains would just like pop out. Well, there's only one way to find out. I have another mod that I have ready to go that changes all of like the snow and the moss shaders to the to that blue Falmer stuff that's usually found in Blackreach, and then I tweaked the values on that so that it doesn't cover so much surface area, but still covers quite a lot of it. Normally it turns into a single pass shader when the object that it's attached to changes into an LOD, but if you can manage to keep it in full detail, you can basically make the mountains glow blue at night. Like it basically makes it look like the snow is like has like bioluminescence embedded in it. It's brilliant. Not everybody's keen on it though. I don't think it looks I have a theory that it doesn't look the same on everybody's TV. In the PC version, if you want to recreate it, you have to set your decals to the right quality setting, and you have to have anti-aliasing turned on, or else you can't. It does not look the same at all. I have to save in an interior, or else the game will not load the file back up again. It's like this is basically like pure testing. Well, I have plenty of ways of describing things, so if not the first time, then I'm like a thesaurus. I have more ways to say things than I have things to say. Yeah, it's a little easier for like file security that way. I don't have any experience with the Xbox, and since they can have external assets, it's like I don't know. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight type situation. I kind of like the. I'm actually kind of happy in the like the smaller sandbox of the PS4 world, just because like I feel like I don't know, even though the walls are like clearly defined, there's like you're given pretty much, you know, as much freedom as everybody else, as long as, you know, you just have to stay in a different set of walls. But once you I think the earliest part of my education in PS4 modding was just figuring out where the actual walls were, and then, you know, trying to find holes. But without access to the without being able to modify your INI files, the walls are pretty firm. But now that I'm very versed on what the limits of vanilla modding are, like it's pretty easy for me to explain to another person. Although the list of things can just get tedious enough where, you know, it might be best to just be on hand to answer questions, because they might have a few, like, well, what if I want to do this, or what if I want to do this, and I can only, you know, I can really only speak to experience, because I've kind of been rather focused in the mods that I've made. Like, I don't know a whole lot about quite a few aspects of the game, but when it comes to the stuff that a lot of beginning users, or like people who are just getting into modding but they don't want to change too much about the actual game, but would love to see it with a fresh coat of paint. Oh wow. I can't be certain, but I feel like there's something getting in the way of my mountain mod. That, or the things just completely run out of memory, but usually it'll crash if it can't handle it. And the fact that I'm streaming while it's doing that, I'm kind of asking for a fire. Oh, cool. See, that's really cool, because, like, what can be tricky about making the Falmer shader look good is, like, the fact that you can't, like, I brought it down to about the smallest, like, the way that it's drawing that shader, instead of painting, like, imagine, like, if a shader is set to, like, have to have, like, just infinite fall off bias or whatever, like, that basically makes it so that the texture in the shader is just painted like straight across the. I basically made it so instead of it painting with, like, a really big brush or, like, just, you know, dumping the shader bucket on the object itself, I set the draw scale to, like, literally 1, and so it's more like it draws like 1,000 tiny little dots all at once in the area. And normally, because it sticks to objects that are in full LOD, but not, like, they haven't left they haven't entered the LOD range yet. Like, it has a much, like, softer quality to it, like, that blurs really nicely and goes well with, like, fog and nighttime. It looks way better at nighttime, but if you can get it to load in at a further distance, it looks but, like, it kind of clears up a lot of the issues that people have with it. It's not as invasive. It basically just looks like snow that's being, like, lit by the borealis or something. Like, I mean, yeah, it's a little intense, but there's really nothing I can do with that mesh other than, like, tweak the parameters of how much does it give you all at once. And I've kind of found the sweet spot where if you give it even more, like, if you give it any more, it'll really paint the whole mountain, and it'll look awful because you can literally almost see the square outline of the texture file itself. Or if I pull it back at all, like, I'll lose over 50% of it, and then when you get up close to it, you'll hardly be able to see it. So I wish so badly that I could alter that mesh file, just to, like, if I could just have other colors, you know, like, if I could make if I could change, like, this moss right here, for example, like, I'm standing next to, I'm pretty sure this moss right here is a directional shader. If I had a green version of that, I would no doubt replace the moss with it, and basically every single one of the, you know, the shaders would get its own, you know, glowy color, but I know where the walls are, so it's more just wishful thinking. If I could only go one step further. I have a player home that's a really good metaphor for that. It's called the Steam Falls Tavern, and it looks like a tavern, like, straight out of, like, the Barrens in World of Warcraft, because it's like these arched sort of bone shapes, like, and the thing's all, like, open air, but where it's located on the map, it uses only vanilla assets, but it's positioned just beyond the border of, like, like, southwest Skyrim, like, and so you can get right up to the threshold of, like, the porch of this tavern, and you can see it in full view, but you can't get any closer to it without disabling the boundaries, which, if it's in Tamriel, you cannot do it on the PS4 for whatever reason. You can disable the boundaries in the world of Solstheim, but that's
because it's not the actual overworld. It's no different than if you went into Whiterun and you were in Whiterun world. Solstheim world is like it's like a city, but they stretched it out to the size of a small DLC continent. Like, it's not it should be thought of as if you're inside the walls of like a very, very large city that if you disable the borders doesn't really end, because you can go like all the way like over to Black Mountain, and where the big volcanic plume texture and mesh is sitting. Yeah, I usually don't make it that far because it takes like 10 minutes or 15 minutes of like almost solid running, and like you have to have some sort of object that can like you have to have something like this that can propel you into the air so that you can sort of get over some of the geometry of the landscape. But it's a having a player home that I cannot access just outside the boundaries that is totally legit is the greatest metaphor for PS4 modding that I can possibly think of. Like, you can literally see what you want to do, but because the boundaries are right there, you've come so far, but you shall come no further. It's bittersweet, but there are so many borders to find, so, you know, there's so much to do. But I agree, it is. Oh wow, I forgot how big those are now. It is rather discouraging when you like find something. It's just like, oh man, like my dream. I really want to do this, and you find out that, you know, can't do that because it would require an archive. Oh, on the plus side, the lag isn't nearly as bad with Obscura as it is with Kinesweather. I suppose that would be expected, considering that Kinesweather is absolutely enormous and Obscura is relatively small by comparison. Oh man. I understand that what I'm looking at is by no means realistic, but I love it all the same. It's not that any one part of it isn't like realistic. I'm not saying that clouds can't be that white, or that the mountains in the back can't be that dark, but to have the mountains in the background be that black, and then to have the clouds remain that white under, like, it's something that like a visual effects artist would nitpick, you know. They like to point out when visual effects don't properly match the world that they're placed into. For example, like the oh gosh, what am I thinking of? The one of the previews for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, there's a shot where Sonic is sitting in the passenger seat of the car, and it's just a photograph. It's not like it's not meant to. I'm not really talking about the movie, but he's incredibly blue, He has like his eyes are an incredibly like saturated color as well, and he's next to like some sort of he's next to an object that is not met with the similar level of saturation, and it's like I don't have anything to nitpick about that, but I really love watching visual effects artists nitpick stuff, and so it's, you know, I know that it's something that they would say could be better, but when you're going for something that is meant to be more like a living cartoon, Christ, those things are scary. Go away. Like when you've got headphones on, like I can feel these things like breathing in my ear. Yeah, that seems as good a place as any, I suppose. Something went wrong with the moon size. I think I said this in an earlier video. There's something about the way that the PS4 handles changes to the game settings, and one of the game settings, like one of the many game settings that you can modify the parameters of, is the size of, or the scale of Maser and Segunda. And I just to see what would happen, I changed it to double size, and it was way too big. And I tried to change it back to the original, and it stuck with the double size. And I'm not entirely sure how to revert that, but I have a pretty good idea. So for now, I'm just gonna, have enormous sky statics. It's better than having, huge lines in your atmosphere mesh that are like really visible. It's one of the things I absolutely love about Obscura is I feel like I could watch the weather for forever, and it would never give me the lines. This is way easier with crosshairs.
So yeah, as I feel like I have done a pretty good job of illustrating with this demonstration, is that sometimes you can work really hard and get what you want, but sometimes it comes at a cost that is that's just not good enough, you know? Like, this mod, if it was published, would have to come with a disclaimer that says not for use in actual gameplay. Best suited for screenshots, weather demos, exterior lighting demos, whatever. But depending on, I don't know, depending on where you put yourself in the world, you can have a whole lot of these mountains without having to be outside the FOV, or outside the LOD. But you cannot get results like, you cannot paint the distant mountains with a glowing shader if you don't go this route. But I find the cost of performance to be just absolutely too high, and I'm noticing some of these just aren't working properly like they should be. Although it is, like, that is another thing that's weird about the LOD, and it's why they swap out for different textures. Because when you take, okay, for example, this texture right here that you're seeing, this dirt cliff, this is the object that this texture is natively made for. This object right here that I'm standing in front of. It's one of, like, thousands of these of what's referred to as dirt cliffs. When you take that texture and you strip it of its normal, which is the gloss on the texture right underneath the okay, so if you look at this, at just this right here, the diffuse is the green grass thing. The two-dimensional picture, you could spread it out on the floor. And then right underneath that in the texture set is the normal layer. The normal layer is the gloss saran wrap looking texture that's basically in the perfect shape of the texture that it's paired with. At a certain level of LOD, it stops stacking all those layers together, and will more than likely swap out the normal it'll swap out the normal of the dirt cliff for the one of the actual mountain ranges, which has a much different, like, if you look at the gloss textures of both the dirt cliffs and of the mountains, they're very different, which is why my replacement takes light and color in a way that the vanilla mountains never could. They don't have enough color to give back when you shine other colors at them, so they will always be this, like, just lifeless gray color, which this land is, like, magical and alive and stuff, and I've always thought that there was something so terribly unrealistic about the Skyrim mountains, and I wanted something that made sense, and the dirt cliff texture satisfies like countless demands that I have in terms of what am I looking for in a mountain texture. Number one, it actually looks dirty. It doesn't look like somebody like cleaned it and waxed it. It doesn't look waxed. That's really important. The only thing that should be waxed are my character's whiskers. Oi, that's bad. That's real bad. That's being too close to the water while it's going at crazy speeds. So one of the, not only does this texture set take light really, really well and take color really well, which just enhances any weather mod that goes along with it, particularly any one that utilizes the tint more than others. I think from what I've found, the guys who made Obsidian Weathers are not crazy about using a lot of tint, which is why a lot of their stuff tends to run on the lower end of the saturation scale. They tend to be pretty good at capturing realism, but that's I feel like realism is sort of like a spectrum. Where I come from, like what I'm looking at right now is a realistic level of saturation. Like the sunsets where I'm at, like they I've seen crazy weather in real life before. I've seen every color of weather in real life, and so realism is a spectrum. And some people will swear by it as like the number one thing that they're looking for. So yeah, let's see, the color, the dirtiness, and I also really like the way that it has like these lines that run through it. They make sense, like geologically, the way that mountains form, like and all that. Like if you know how mountain ranges form, it's water. It's water erosion. It's glacial ice sheet slide. There are, in the original mountain textures, there are no indications that these mountains ever went through some sort. They don't seem to. They're not convincing participants in seismic activity. These I feel like the way that the Skyrim textures on the mountains look, it's like they've never moved. It's like they've just always been there, and they should look like this. This is what a mountain looks like. Maybe not when it gets stretched out like that, but like these are what rocks are supposed to look like. I've hiked in the Colorado mountains. I've seen the mountains of California before. These have the character that you need, and yeah, it just kind of worked out because I couldn't just keep staring at those gray ones. I wasn't gonna be able to keep playing. Oh, that's neat. it takes something being that far away on that small of a scale to make you realize that, like, you can almost pick out the luminance of individual pixels on the screen. Like, I can't... There's something about the way that this shader works, like, I can't tell if I'm seeing the texture of my television screen or what, but I wish that in order to do what's happening here on the right of Dragon's Reach, I wish that it wasn't such a... I wish that I could do that, but not at such a cost. I wish that the game... it seems that the PlayStation needs probably about double the memory allocation to run this that it probably does now in order to properly do it. Or, you know, maybe if I disabled the grass across Tamriel, or who knows, you know. I'd be cutting so many corners. Maybe if I don't know, like, I'm afraid of what I would have to reduce the game to in order to trade off for the results that I want. Like, it's great right now because I'm standing in one spot and the weather, like, the time scale isn't going insane. There isn't an NPC speaking or walking or sandboxing or anything like nearby. There's nothing making noise in the wilderness except for like a few bugs, but those are made by the sound engine based on region settings. So there's not actually something there. It's just where I'm at. You have a percentage chance of hearing certain noises. It's in the sound file. It's in the files. You can find it. Like, it's all there. Oh, I think I'm gonna call it though, because I'm kind of hungry and I've been doing this for a while now, and I covered a lot of ground. So we'll come back. We always come back. So anyway, this has been me, BeVeryOfA, and my assistant 13. And you guys are absolute legends if you stuck around for the live thing, or if you watched after the fact. And, you know, if you have any questions or comments, requests, dedications, hit me up. Anyway, you guys have a great night, and take care of each other. Don't get sick. It's a real bad time to get sick. So